Let me first thank everyone for coming. Is everybody rolling and everything? Audio sound good? We'll test that. Okay. In the interest of efficiency, we're going to kind of do a hybrid. We'll do a press conference format for you in case you need to leave or anything, but also what we really tried to set up today more or less was a one-on-one smaller groups so that you can talk to all the folks that we have here about the problem. And so we're happy to hang around as long as it takes for y'all to get what you need on that. I'm going to introduce our speakers here to start, and then when they come up, I'll have them say their name and spell it for you with their title so you have it right in front of their remarks. First, I'm going to introduce our Superintendent, Dr. Eric Wright. I'm going to introduce Kyle Police Chief Jeff Barnett. And we really want to give a special appreciation to Chief Barnett. He's been, this is a collective effort, obviously, and there are a lot of folks involved in this fight against fentanyl, but the Chief has really been a strong partner with us over the last couple of weeks and over the summer on it. I also want to introduce Jim Swisher with EMS on the front lines there too, because this is both a law enforcement issue as well as an emergency medical services issue. And then we have our Chief of Safety and Security for the school district, Jerry Skrodke, and these folks will be making just a brief remarks, and then they'll be available for one-on-one interviews after it. I'll just start by saying that when you have one student death, it breaks your heart, and you know at that point that the fentanyl crisis has hit home. When you have a second student death, you start to worry. You still have that hope. Maybe it's just a tragic coincidence, but you worry. And we had our second student death before school started. And so that's why we sent out some information, and Chief Barnett posted on the Facebook right before school started last week, just to let people know that this is something that's happening. But when you have your third student death, then that's a crisis. That's a pattern. And so at that point, it's clear the calendar, clear everything off your desk. This is the #1 priority. And so that's what we've been doing the last day and a half, is putting this together for you. We have some posters that are going out, and we have our website behind us that we put together for our parents that we made live last night. Know that this is just the start. This is not we're going to hit the issue very heavily and check a box. This is just the beginning of the conversation. And it's going to be a long conversation, we're afraid, but we need to have it. One other item that I just wanted to mention is, as far as student names, we're not going to be able to release those. Normally, we would, when we have a student death, we can release the name because we're not talking about a potential cause of death. In this case, because we are talking about a potential cause of death, of course, it will take an autopsy report to confirm, and those will take several weeks. But because we're talking about a potential cause of death, we don't want to associate that information with an individual student name, both from a standpoint of what we can talk about as a school district, but also out of respect for the families. And in this case, obviously, we believe that talking about the potential causes of death for these 3 students is the most important information that we need to convey to our parents. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Jeff Barnett with the Kyle Police Department, and let him say his name and spell it, and then he'll have a few remarks.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Barnett, and that is Jeffbarnett. I'm the Chief of Police at the Kyle Police Department. First, let me say thank you to the media. Thank you for being part of this morning. You can tell by the folks that are here in front of you today the importance of getting this message out. We started a few weeks ago. We've added to that on our social media, and now before you, you have some people in the community that want you to understand the importance and the level of commitment that you have from our organizations to the safety of our children in our community. This group before you has an outstanding relationship. We share information, we work together, we talk almost daily about the events that are happening in our community, and it's unfortunate that we are here today as we talk about the fentanyl problem in the city of Kyle. We're somewhat a bedroom community that's growing, we're adding businesses, we're a growing community, so we expect change, but we do not expect the kind of change that you just heard about from Tim as he talked about the loss, the devastating loss of 3 students in recent weeks and more students in the years past, more adults. The Kyle Police Department started noticing a trend in January of 2022. Since that time, we have lost 7 people to fentanyl overdoses that we believe are related to fentanyl overdoses. As he mentioned, there's autopsies and there's more investigative work to be done. However, when detectives are on the scene and we find pieces of the pills and remnants of the drug laying around the body, and then we do toxicology and interview witnesses and find out what that person's been up to, we can come to a good conclusion that these drugs are harming our children and our adults in the community. Our message at Kyle PD is multifold. First, we want parents to have the conversation. Have the conversation with your children. Even if you do not think that they're exposed to illegal drugs, you need to ask them. You need to ask them what they see, what they hear from their friends. Are there people out there in the community that are offering drugs to them? Give them the coping mechanism to say no. Tell them what to do when they're approached by someone that's trying to sell them something that is not theirs. It could be a prescription-looking pill, as we find in most of these. A lot of these more recent cases have been a really light blue, M30 blue pill. They're supposed to look like Percocet or oxycodone or you name it, a number of other traditionally prescribed medications. However, these are not made in a lawful pharmaceutical lab. These are made in streets or on the streets, in garages, in your backyards. They're made by criminals. Their intent is to harm and get our children addicted to drugs. And what we need to do is first have that conversation with our children. The second thing you need to do is you need to get word to the children about all of the options and things that they can do for help. If their best friend is using drugs, what do they need to do? Do they need to tell someone? Absolutely. They need to tell their parents. They need to tell school officials. They need to report it to Crime Stoppers. But do something. Help us find the people that are responsible for these crimes. Our investigators are interviewing everyone possible when we go to an overdose where people survive and, unfortunately, where people pass, because we want to do everything we can to bring those responsible to the proper court. It is a criminal offense to sell illegal drugs. It is a criminal offense to do something that causes the death to another, whether unknowingly or knowingly. You can be held criminally responsible for your actions, and we're coming after you. I appreciate the partnership that we have here, and it's sad to report that we've had 7 fentanyl-related deaths in the city of Kyle this calendar year, and many more that survived. We're talking about children as young as 14 years old. So middle school parents, elementary school parents, begin to have those conversations as well, because it is a reality for those children. So make sure you're aware. I would encourage parents to be actively involved in the lives of your children. Go into their rooms and look and see that they're living the lifestyle that you expect as a parent. Make sure that there's not other things finding their way to their rooms that you're not aware of. Be actively involved in their social media. If you have young children and teens that have telephones, there are apps that are out there that drug dealers like to use to try to communicate the sale of their drugs. We're finding that in our cases. People that have these illegal drugs to offer for sale will use code words, and they will use apps on the telephone to enhance their anonymity. Parents should be involved in the social media use of their children. Go look for things. Be an active parent. Be active in your children's life. Talk to them. Give them the hope that they need, that they can confront somebody selling something to them, and that they know what actions to take when that happens. We strongly appreciate our partnership with the school district, with the EMS and fire agencies that are working with us, and all of the law enforcement, whether it's state, local, federal. We're working with every agency that will partner with us so that we can put a stop to this in the city of Kyle. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Wright, E-R-I-C-W-R-I-G-H-T, and I'm the superintendent for Hays CISD. And I want to echo what Chief Barnett said. I want to thank the media for being here today, because this is indeed a crisis situation, and we need to educate the public. And as a member of the media, you are helping us do just that. So thank you for being here. The school board and I love our kids, and we value each and every life, and to have one death is one death too many. And especially in a situation where it can be prevented. And so as Chief Barnett mentioned, the goal of this press conference today is just to let our parents, our aunts, uncles, grandparents, brothers, sisters, teachers, everyone know that this is an urgent matter and that we need to have those conversations like now. As soon as they hear the message that you released today, they need to go and have the conversation that it's not okay to accept and take a pill that hasn't been prescribed by their doctor or that they haven't received from the pharmacy. Don't even take an aspirin or what you think might be an aspirin from a fellow classmate because you don't know where it came from. And so let's protect ourselves and let's protect the lives of all of our kids in this district, in our community. And as you know, it's not just related to Hays CISD, Hays County. It's across the state of Texas and across the nation. So hopefully, because of this information that we're sharing today, we can begin to save lives universally across the state and across the nation. So again, thank you for being here. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our Chief of Safety and Security, Jerry Scrocky.
Good morning. Jeri, last name is Skrocki. What I want to address is that we all know, and we hear it, we see it on the news, but our goal and our focus has been as a school district to get the message to our children. How do we educate our kids? Because, quite frankly, they're not the people watching the news. They're not reading the headlines. They may read a blurb that comes up on a pop-up, but our focus has been over the last 2 or 3 weeks in talking with Chief Barnett is really about how do we get into the classroom and how do we educate our students. You can see next to me we have signs that are going to go up. It's going on our website. We're also hitting a fentanyl safety page on our website. But we had a vision outside of that was literally getting into the classroom. And so what we decided to do as a district is we're creating a PSA within our team, and we are getting local community members who are our subject matter experts to participate and help us with that PSA. That public service announcement will then be shown at our middle and high school levels to really try to get these children, our students, to understand the risks, the dangers, and the warning signs, and really what they can do if they experience it, what options are available for them. We know we have school resource officers. Hays County Sheriff's Office staffs our secondary schools. Knowing that they're not there for arresting people, they're there as a resource. That's the big part of law enforcement that when we deal with school resource officers that we don't seem to market well enough. And so we don't want you to just see the uniform that has a badge and a patch on it that says law enforcement. We also want you to realize that they're a resource. Dr. Wright really, and as well as Chief Barnett, really talked about the importance of speaking up. You're not tattling, you potentially are saving a life, and unfortunately I can never package that and tell you what you did made the difference, because we'll never know if what you said to someone was really the difference when it came to that person not taking a pill. So our goal, and really is within the next 2 weeks, is to have that video completed. I'm very proud to say that we have had no one wanted to say no within the community. Everybody wanted to participate and be a part of that. So that's our goal in the next week or two, is that we'll be rolling that message out. It will be up on our Facebook page. It will be on our district website. We encourage and we want our parents to watch it and know it as well. And really, we'll echo what both Dr. Wright and Chief Barnett said, is that we have to have that discussion with our kids. We have to be aware. We all have to remain vigilant, know what the signs and symptoms are. At the end of the day, we're a community, and we're responsible for each other. These kids we're raising, and our goal is we want to make sure that we're getting everybody that we possibly can to be aware of the dangers. Counterfeit pills are out there. You can't look at them and tell the difference. Medical professionals can't tell the difference. That's why they're tested. And so the reality is we have to focus on those things. That's part of why the district was so stringent, not only because of an active shooter incident in Uvalde, but it also includes our safety and security protocols to make sure that we're not getting deliveries in the middle of the day and all of those things. Safety and security doesn't just include an active shooter event, right? It's fire, it's weather, and it's drugs and alcohol. And our goal is, quite frankly, to make sure that we address all of those areas that we possibly can. I'm going to turn it over to San Marcos Hays County EMS Chief Swisher, Jim Swisher. He will talk a little bit about the emergent issues that they deal with on their end through EMS.
Hi, I'm Jim Swisher, the Assistant Chief, San Marcos Hays County EMS. That's JIMSWISHER. So when EMS gets involved, that's most parents' worst day ever. There's 3 kids out there. It's their parents' and family's worst day ever. No going back, no returning. The problem we see is when we arrive, it's way late in the game because the kids take the drug, then they look at each other and they notice something's going wrong, and then they have to wait in their minds and they have to make a decision whether they're going to dial 911 or they're going to leave. A lot of times they will dial 911 and they'll leave. We'll show up, the officers will show up, there's no one there. Or there's someone there pointing, they're over there. And then they disappear. So we don't have any idea of what went on beforehand. We're way late in the game, the damage is done, and there we sit working a 15-year-old kid doing CPR on them, or before CPR aggressively trying to figure out what's going on and trying to get the drugs on board that will take care of the issue. The thing that the kids need to understand is if they're involved in these kind of activities, they need to pay attention to their friends and they need to discourage their friends. Or I talk about the worst day of a parent's life, worst day of a friend's life. You're having a party with your friend, you're talking to your friends, you're trying something, you're experimenting on something, your friend goes unconscious, worst day in your life. When the medics show up and they work as hard as they can and they take them to the hospital and the outcome is really bad, it's the worst day of your life. So as Hays County grows, as the school districts are growing at huge rates, in comes the opportunity for more business ideas and more drug dealers, and this is where our problem stems from. The fix to the problem is not all the stuff that we can do on the top side. It's going to have to come from the kids making a conscious decision, a moral decision to get involved with their friends and deter their friends. Because I can stand up here all day long and say, stop, don't do this. They're not listening to me. They're listening to their peer support groups. And so that's the key for us is they need to be aware and they need to be willing to stand up for their friends. Parents need to be willing to stand up for their kids. And so, like I said, when we get there, we're way behind the curve, and a lot of times we have to figure out what's going on in general. If somebody just was able to tell us they took baby blues or they took fentanyl, that helps us out immensely. Beginning of 2022, we had to increase the amount of medications we were carrying on the trucks because this drug is so potent that our normal treatments were not working for it. The drugs that we have to use are, because it's an epidemic around the nation, the drugs we have to use are in short supply. We're trying to get those in all the police officers' vehicles. We're trying to increase our doses. The hospitals are increasing their stores of it. So drug shortages are a problem with fighting this. So those are just parts that we look at from our standpoint.
And as I said before, we're going to kind of do a hybrid, so we can take a couple of questions here, or if you want to kind of break and do one-on-ones. I'm good either way. We're here for you to get what you need to help us tell this story. So I'm seeing maybe, yes. Do you want to?
So with anything, we have some very outspoken students that are going to advocate and really be involved with that. But what we know is there's a lot of reservations among children, students, because they don't want to get their friends in trouble. Maybe they don't want to get in trouble. So our goal is, quite frankly, what Chief Swisher is talking about, is really to try to get them to understand the importance and recognize and get there before it happens. And so we recognize that it is going to be an uphill battle, but again, we just have to we have to just keep peeling away at the onion and really get them to get the information out there as soon as we possibly can. You know, our goal is really, if you know someone and you know a friend who had to be hospitalized or had to be addressed, getting that individual to you know, maybe speak or talk to their friend group and things like that. So that's one of the things that we're also attempting to work on for that.
What kind of counseling services will your students actually be lost classmates prior to the beginning of the school year and now early school? What is the counseling services?
So we have a group message with all of us, and so we're again, this isn't just a Hays CISD, this is also San Marcos, right, Dripping Springs, Wimberley. One of the things that we do is we have a very close-knit group, and so we are small enough that we know everybody's numbers and we text, and so when we do get information in regards to that, what's immediately happening is we're coordinating with our campus, our coordinating staff, as well as our administrative folks, because we're typically getting that information either from fire, EMS, or law enforcement that we had an issue. And so our goal in any of those things, or it may be social media, we hear about it oftentimes by social media because that's almost happening before law enforcement may be even clearing the scene. And so that being said, what we do is activate those resources and have them available for those students who seek them out. We try to publicize that and really have that reach out. We really we collaborate with law enforcement typically in a death because, of course, they're oftentimes being handled by the law enforcement piece for the families, and so we don't want to overstep, but a lot of times what may happen is we'll reach out with affected families and things like that so that when they do return to school after an event, they do know that there is someone there that if they need a break or a timeout or really need to talk, that there is a school option for them as well.
Are we equipping local law enforcement, EMS, as well as school resource officers with Narcan in case something is happening on campus?
Yes, so all of our student clinics are staffed with Narcan, as well as our SRO population that we have on our secondary campuses as well. What we are also, of course, looking at and have collaborated with Hays County is the addition of the mobile patrol units, the 3 officers in regards to that. They will also be equipped with that Narcan population. We're also very lucky. I know traffic is bad in Hays County, but we do have really good response time with EMS. But as we said, I mean, it's not unusual for maybe a child to, you know, take something, maybe go sit in their patrol car or sit in their car in the parking lot or maybe sit in a bathroom, and it's too late at that point. So we really want to make sure that people understand that if you start having those symptoms and you start feeling not right, seek out help, seek out medical help. I want you to go tell a teacher, we want you to go to the nurse's clinic. Yes, ma'am.
So what are the apps that are being most commonly used to distribute these illicit drugs?
I'll turn that over to Chief.
Yeah, the question is what apps are they using, and actually they're using just about every social media app that you can find, especially those that use anonymity as their selling point. So I don't particularly have a list for you here, but it's any app that people are using to chat, communicate, and they're using code words. They'll send out just a code word that they have something for sale, and it's only up for a short amount of time, and then they're gone. These drug dealers, they know they can advertise this. These pills are cheap. They're inexpensive. They'll meet quickly. And now that we're seeing more of it in college, it's more readily available. So it's basically any social media app where people can communicate. And I'm sorry, I don't have the names, but that's what they're doing. I'll remind you one thing. There is no piece of these pills that they're taking that is safe. We are hearing in the subsequent interviews from survivors that they believe that if they break the pill into smaller pieces, they can take an amount of that pill and it's safe. And then when they get maybe not the reaction they wanted, a high or some kind of reaction, they decide to take the second piece and the third piece, or maybe the other half of the pill, and that doesn't contain the same amount of fentanyl as the first piece or the first half. So our message is there's no piece of these illegal drugs that are safe for these children. So please help us get that message out as well. The other thing that came to mind is that when we do these subsequent interviews with their friends and their siblings, usually, because the parents aren't often aware, and it is heart-wrenching to see these parents in agony in the front yard of their own home where they've just discovered their teenager deceased in a bedroom. It's heart-wrenching. When we conduct the secondary interviews with friends and siblings, and we get beyond the initial conversation and we really start to find out what they know, sometimes they know what's happening with their older brother or sister. And that's heart-wrenching as well, to see a young child, 7, 8, 9 years old, describe their older siblings' drug usage. they see it too. So parents, continue that conversation with your younger children about what they see. So sometimes the information is out there. Our officers do carry Narcan, to answer the other question, and they do perform CPR on these young teenagers, and that's challenging on these officers as they arrive and they're doing CPR on 14-year-olds with no other explained medical emergency other than the drug-induced situation that they're in, and it's happening all too often. So.
So we've done on social media that there is more of this type of drug being passed around that looks like candy. Do you think these are things to be attracted to it? Have you heard anything about this?
We've heard some of the street names or nicknames that they're going to call this new candy coloring. They're calling it rainbow and other terms. Drug dealers are going to adapt, and they're going to try to market their illegal product to children in any way they can. The more enticing they can make it look, the more commonplace they can make it look, so that maybe it's not detected by a school teacher or a principal or a police officer because it looks like a traditional piece of candy. Then that's absolutely what they're going to do, because they're going to try to get this deadly substance into the hands of the children, and they're going to make it look as enticing as they can. Yes, we are aware of it. Yes, our officers are trained to look for that. We want parents to educate themselves as well. The information is now becoming more available on social media. The DEA is doing a really good job at trying to keep America aware of what's happening in the drug trend for fentanyl. So follow some of those sites as well, and you can see the pictures. But I encourage parents to absolutely have these conversations about just that. Even things that look safe, candies from other people, don't take that either. There's no need to take these candies or things that are not issued to you by your parents or lawfully prescribed medication, as Dr. Wright mentioned. But we are aware of the trend. We think that'll be more dangerous, and we hope that this conversation today can help prevent some future deaths.
Kind of put it in perspective for students and parents, how do you know how much fentanyl is legal? I mean, I'm looking at that picture right there where it says virgin information. Is that correct?
So although, and Chief Swisher may want to add something from a medical perspective, but although there are lawfully prescribed medical uses in the medical field under the direction of a doctor, there may be some beneficial use in a hospital setting or otherwise. There is no street safe amount of this drug to take. There is no sliver of a pill, half of a pill, or a piece of a pill that is safe to take. As I mentioned earlier, these pills are not made in laboratories where things are done the right way and they're used for the right person under the right medical circumstances. They're made in backyards and garages and foreign countries, not by professionals, and they will mix this fentanyl drug with anything that they have at their disposal to press that into a pill form. And the other substances can be deadly themselves, and then you combine it into a pill with fentanyl. These children do not know. They may think they know what they're taking, but they do not know everything that's contained in that pill. So there is no safe amount from our standpoint. Yes, ma'am.
I'll add on here too the pictures on our posters. If you need to source that, I took those from the fentanyl fact sheet from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, and we have that linked on our line. And I have the actual full fact sheet. I just kind of took their pictures and gave them credit down there. So that's the example that they have on their sheet, and it was powerful to me, and I hope it's a powerful message to people who will see these posters, our students in the classroom, because that right there tells you that just a tiny amount is deadly. Do we want to break up into smaller? Let's do that. And we're here. We're going to hang around, and we're going to be available to help you get what you need.